Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. And tonight we turn our attention to an issue that touches every Grenadian, the security of our borders. From the waters surrounding Carriacou and Petite Martinique to our main ports of entry here in St. George's, the threats are real. Drug trafficking, human smuggling, illegal migration, and of late, the pressures of international operations now unfolding the Caribbean Sea. With us tonight are representatives from the Coast Guard and the Immigration Department, and together we'll explore how Grenada is meeting these challenges and what more needs to be done. Again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gordon Joseph, and with me tonight are two friends from way back when. Inspector Alison Roberts from the Immigration Department and Inspector Dexter Roberts from the Coast Guard. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And it feels like old days, sitting down and chatting and knocking a glass. But the only difference is that this evening we have some really serious concerns that we would like to address so that it can clarify some of the concerns of our citizens and make their minds more at ease. So I'm going to start off with a generic question. Why is border security such a critical issue for Grenada at this time?
Yes, good evening again. And I just want to start by saying border security has always been a critical issue. Border security is always high on the agenda, and as part of the whole process, Immigration Department, we are mandated to play our part to ensure the tranquility and the peace of this nation is preserved. So border security, what it does, it creates that kind of harmony for our visitors and of course our nationals, and that we would be in a better position as a country, as a nation, to maximize on our tourism product and so on. So at this time, I would say this is one of the critical areas for, or the critical reason for border security.
It's interesting that you said that, because from the ordinary man's perspective, we really see immigration officers really at the airports to check what you're bringing in. But as to the coming in and staying of foreigners, not much emphasis was really placed on that. We thought people just coming, they pay the necessary fees on entry, and then they're free to mix and mingle as much as they want. However, in recent times, we've gotten to understand that it's much more than that. The Immigration Department, and by extension, the Minister of National Security, has to have a good idea as to who are on the island. He has to account for us as nationals and also know who are foreigners and ensure that they are all within the parameters of their visitor status. All right. Now, having said that, how would you describe the current state of our borders, both maritime and through our airports?
Well, let me address the maritime aspect of it, and good evening to all the viewers. And just to add with what Inspector Lewis would have said in terms of the importance of border security, Grenada is an island nation surrounded by water, and as a result we have significant border security issues. And what makes it more challenging is the fact that we have a lot of porous border, or what is called porosity of border, because we have so many different inlet and bays where small vessels can just pull in. It makes it difficult for law enforcement to be able to to do that. And that is some of the challenge. That is some of the challenges that we are facing at this time with regards to our borders, and that is the state in which our borders are at the moment. Very porous border, and we as the as law enforcement, we cannot be ubiquitous throughout the island at all times. So it makes it somewhat challenging for us to.
So, having said that, is it fair to say that the porosity of our borders now, it is more of a deeper concern now than it was in the not so distant past, let's say 10, 15, maybe even 20 years back?
No, it has always been a challenge. It has always been, has that challenge, and there is not much, difference in terms of 10 years past to now. Maybe what has changed between now and 10 years past, maybe is the frequency of incursion into the borders and the type of crimes that we are seeing now relative to 10 years past. But our borders has always been porous, and if you know, maybe growing up, because we grew up along the seacoast, and we always hear about contraband coming in France, contraband coming in there. Yeah. The reason why it was coming in is because of porosity.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You touched a very important side topic, if you want to refer to it as that. Crime, the type and the volume of crime that we've been seeing in Grenada in recent times. Of course, there's nothing new under the sun. Crime has always been there. But in Grenada, in the past, when you hear of a murder, most times a man used a cutlass or a knife or something of that nature. But in recent times, we've had an influx of gun violence. Is it therefore safe to say that the porosity of our borders and the influx of illegal, or maybe legal as well, visitors, do you think that would have changed the crime dynamics in Grenada?
Well, we do not manufacture guns here, so the guns have to be coming from somewhere. And in terms of where it's coming from or how it is coming into Grenada, that's the challenge, And like I said before, with our porous borders, it's easy for a small boat to pull into any one of our bays and inlets during the night and offload whatever it is that they need to offload. So that could be one of the the ways in which guns are coming into Grenada, because we do not manufacture guns here. And yeah, you're right. We have seen an increase in the in gun violence in recent times, and it's alarming, So yeah.
Okay. Now, in practical terms, what are the biggest threats Grenada faces at its borders? We're looking at things like drugs, guns, human trafficking, and so forth. What are the biggest threats we face at the moment?
Well, you mentioned it, I think, and Sergeant Roberts would have touched a little on it, the fact that persons come in here illegally. And I personally believe that persons come in with good intention would not come in illegally. They would use the proper channel to get to Grenada. However, someone wanting to come in with contraband or guns or drugs, in most cases they come in here illegally, because they wouldn't want the arrival or departure to be documented, and they wouldn't want to go through the process of the screening and so on. So with the borders porous as it is, they would definitely use that channel to get to Grenada.
And that is really cause for concerns, because And as we would get deeper as we go into the program, as it relates to the human and mechanical resources that we have at our disposal to mitigate against those illegal entries, these are critical. I mean, in our small island developing states, financial resources are not always as readily available as we would like to, so I know there could be some limitations there, but we would get more into that as we go along. Now, what role do international developments like the recent U.S. operations in the Caribbean Sea play in shaping our border security strategy? It's in the news. I read it this morning. 2 vessels were bombed in South America area, Venezuela, Guyana, around there. And then yesterday or so, I think another vessel was bombed by the Dominican Republic. And it seems as though the U.S. have changed and modified their approach to dealing with what they term as narcotics. All right, they're no longer holding up the vessel, seizing the vessel, and interrogating the crew and so forth. They're getting rid of everything. So, how does that sort of action by international players interfere with Grenada's readiness to deal with Grenada's approach to dealing with the porous borders and securing our borders?
Well, if I may answer that, these are what is considered to be, geopolitical issues, and it is not within my purview to speak about it tonight. I don't have the the ability to speak on that tonight. But if there is any protracted conflict in the U.S. and, as I say, what's happening in Venezuela, I think a possible expectation, if there's any, let's say, fighting, that may occur, a possible expectation is migration pressures. Right, that might be the only concern that I see coming off of that, where Grenada needs to be prepared, because you would find maybe Venezuelan leaving Venezuela like how they would have done in the past, and maybe move to Trinidad when they had this this upheaval in Venezuela, and Grenada is not so far removed from Trinidad, so it's possible if this becomes a protracted incident, you may have to we may see some migration pressures happening. But apart from that, in terms of the bombings and stuff like that, international law governs how things happen. How wars are fought. So I guess wherever these incidents occur, the relevant parties might need to address that in the relevant court system.
Yeah, it's an established fact that because of the nature of the region and various treaties and organizations, CARICOM and so forth, whenever one territory is affected adversely, the possibility of the end of that spreading throughout, is obvious. I mean, we've seen quite a number of Venezuelans coming to our shows as well. As a matter of fact, we have quite a number of Haitians here as well because of the conflict that is taking place there. So all in all, what is really needed is for a collaborative approach. And as you said, the bigger boys are the ones that would really have to sit and put policies and make those decisions. Now, from the Coast Guard's perspective, right, what are some of the current capabilities? What are the capabilities of the Coast Guard in terms of patrol, technology, and also their manpower? How is your department doing?
Well, the Coast Guard is doing well, given our constraints. Well, as you know, you never have sufficient manpower to do the job, also the necessary equipment. But given what we have, I think the Coast Guard is performing well. We have had great successes with regards to interceptions, with regards to marijuana from St. Vincent coming to our shows. That has been one of our great successes in terms of interception and seizure of marijuana. And we would have Grenada, and by extension the RGPF would have gotten good accolades from the United States Southern Command with regards to our level of operation in terms of interception. But manpower, we do need manpower, because I will tell you this: our maritime space is over 10 times larger than our terrestrial space. Our maritime space encompasses over 26,000 square kilometers. That's a huge area, and that requires a lot of assets to patrol, right? Both surface level assets and aerial assets. So you need aircrafts, you need drones, you need large vessels that can go 100, 200 miles out to sea to patrol your maritime domain. And this is what we do not have at this time. So these are some of our constraints with regards to Coast Guard and our challenges in terms of facing the threats that are there.
You raised a very nice point there in terms of drones. Drones have been the direction the technology is going nowadays. Every day and everything now is drone. I mean, I have a neighbor that can stay where we live in Corinth and tell us what's happening in Latant, and that's just a friendly drone.
Right.
We look at the effects of the drones that we had during the carnival season, that we were able to have aerial security checks and everything like that. So how frequently are breaches or illegal activities detected in our Grenadian waters? I mean, I don't expect an exact figure, but
Well, in terms of breaches, we tend to see particular offenses committing, and it generally centers around narcotics, the trade in narcotics. So that is the most amount of crime incidents, breaches that we tend to see. We do not have so much of a illegal fishing problem. Out at sea we do not encounter any issues of human smuggling, human trafficking out at sea. All that we are seeing from a maritime point of view is the trade in the marijuana and the transshipment of cocaine and stuff from Central America up through North America and across the Atlantic through Europe.
And how alarming is that?
It's alarming enough.
Frequency-wise.
Yeah, it's alarming because one shipment is one shipment, too much. Because it destroys, the young minds.
And how regular would you say you have interceptions of those nature?
I wouldn't be able to give you, here in terms of our interception rate, but we do have, like I say, great success in terms of interception. So. We just recently, and sometimes you don't see it in the news. It doesn't make the news, but
you need to send it to us.
Right, maybe.
You need to send it to us.
But behind the scenes, we are having successes, and even over the weekend, we would have, had some success in terms of intercepting some marijuana. So we do have regular interceptions with regards to marijuana.
Yeah. Well, with the thrust now to decriminalize marijuana, maybe in the not too distant future, your energies and resources might be able to be diverted elsewhere. And once you realize it's marijuana on the boat, you can say, okay, well, that's sooner than later, because that there seems to be the thrust now to decriminalize and then legalize eventually. So
I think that's a misconception. In terms of with regards to decriminalization. Now, when you decriminalize, you only decriminalize a certain amount.
Right.
So you can have in your possession, let's say, 50 grams or 58 grams, which I think is the required amount. So you can have that legally and not be prosecuted for it. But anything beyond that, then that's an offense.
That's an offense.
So then you can get prosecuted for that. So persons must have to be aware of decriminalization and and legalization. Yeah. But I don't think the thrust is to move towards legalization, but it's more to decriminalization. So you're entitled to have 1 ounce, let's say 1 ounce.
My personal opinion on that is that I think eventually, and it's not necessarily because maybe regional governments want to, but the powers that be, are exerting certain pressures as it relates to when you getting grant funding and all this. There are certain clauses that come along with it that sometimes, the small island developing states really don't have much bargaining power per se. You have to go with the flow.
Yeah, it is true. But then at the end of the day, I believe you as a country, you as a government, it's important that you protect your people.
Yeah.
You protect your people. And if something is not good for you, for your country, for your people, then
that's why we employ them. All right. So from immigration now, the immigration standpoint we were looking at now, what are the most pressing border challenges you're facing right now?
It goes back to the same point in the beginning with the porous borders, and with a porous border and limitation in terms of manpower and resources, of course you would have a lot of intrusion by persons from the outside. So from an immigration standpoint, we continuously have persons enter our shores at certain undesignated ports and bays and inlets and so on. As Sergeant Roberts would have Inspector Roberts would have alluded to, the equipment or the Coast Guard, with their limitation, is not may not be able to adequately man those ports or bays, as the case may be. So from time to time, or very frequently, you would have persons come in, remain here as part of the general body, and oftentimes you would realize when persons get involved in other criminal activities, immigration is summoned. And then at that point, we would realize that they are here illegally. They didn't come through the normal process. So that has always and is always a challenge for us. So we would ask for partnership in dealing with it. We cannot do it on our own.
And we here are talking immigration?
Yes, law enforcement.
Law enforcement, okay.
So we seek the public help in that regard, because for the most part of it, the public would see, hear, and oftentimes know the persons who are here illegally. Unfortunately, persons would report cases only when there is an issue turn up. But we were asking that you can reach out to us at any time so that we can look into it, because the person you may harbor might just be a criminal. And most time it is. That
they might be running from prosecution,
yes,
from their place of origin or so.
Yes, we have seen that many times, that persons come, they form part of the community, they've been living here, And after they find themselves in trouble with the law, and we carry out our background checks, that those persons are wanted criminals in their country. So it's in the public's interest to partner with us, partner with law enforcement to ensure that we maintain that safe space we enjoy as Grenadians.
Right. Now, Grenada's economy is predominantly, sad to say, but at the moment, tourism-based. Right? That's the engine room of the economy, tourism. And tourism involves people visiting. Now, a visitor comes through legally, comes through the port, does all their checks, everything, pay whatever fees have to be paid, and so forth. And they're on the island. Now, at what point, where do they become illegal? How do they become an illegal visitor then?
Someone coming to Grenada, at the port of entry, you've been given a specific period, with the exception of OECS national, who on arrival they've been granted indefinite stay. CARICOM, they are granted 6 months. Outside of CARICOM, 3 months. So after that period, if one fails to seek extension, further extension, they becomes illegal because they would have exhausted or exceeded the time granted.
The legal time?
Yes. So under the Immigration Act, they overstay the visitor's permit, so they become illegal.
Okay. I think we have a break on the way. Folks, this is Beyond the Headlines, speaking with the Immigration and Coast Guard Departments, Inspector Alison Roberts from the Immigration Department and Inspector Dexter Roberts. Alison Lewis and Dexter Roberts from the Coast Guard. We take a commercial break. We'll be back after these messages. Don't you go anywhere.
Are you longing to taste authentic, flavorful dishes from Thailand? Then look no further. Konthai, the newest restaurant located at the back of Galleria Mall top floor, is the place to satisfy your taste buds for Thai dishes that are well seasoned with fresh local spices. They offer a great selection of sumptuous dishes that will tantalize your taste buds. Visit Konthai today because the food is good, the ambiance is great, and the staff friendly. Available on Carabites and Yogo Grenada. For more information, call 456-0074 or visit konthaigrenada.com or stop by the new Galleria Mall, Grand St. George. I'll meet you there.
Are you ready to take charge of your money, build wealth, and protect your family's legacy? Then join us on October 9th, 2025 at Radisson Grenada Beach Resort for your Financial Future 2.0, Legacy, Literacy, and Liberation, a one-day financial summit designed to break cycles, build wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. You'll gain real-life budgeting hacks, a money mindset reboot, steps to create generational wealth, and practical tips on investing, estate planning, insurance, health, and business finance, all from expert speakers who know how to turn knowledge into action. With 2 inspirational keynotes, 3 powerful panel discussions, and 6 breakout sessions, you will leave with your personalized action plan for success. Don't wait. Secure your seat today. Tickets are EC $350 at disruptiveleadershipconference.com/YFF. Your Financial Future 2.0. Your next chapter starts here.
Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe, nestled in the serene surroundings of Le Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, is the perfect spot to unwind and relax after a stressful event or when you wish to spoil yourself in the most comfortable and relaxing atmosphere. They offer many different massage modalities, including thigh hammer, washer and cupping, signature thigh deep tissue massage, also facials to depuff and tighten pores, deep cleanse full body, hair and nail treatments and more. Take a walk down to the cafe for authentic Thai breakfasts and delicious traditional dishes. Choose from our special mixed drinks, both hot and cold. Opens daily. Visit Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe today, Le Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, because you will not regret you did. The Grenada Electricity Services Limited cordially invites shareholders to attend the 66th annual meeting of shareholders held virtually on Zoom as well as at the Grenada Room, Radisson Beach Resort on Thursday, 9th October 2025 at 4:30 p.m. Note, each virtual attendee is required to register early to facilitate verification. Documents for the upcoming meeting are available on the company's website. Visit www.grenlec.com or call Grenlec at 237 extension 312 for more information.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Beyond the Headlines for today, Monday, September 22nd. We're talking border security tonight. With me are Inspector Alison Lewis and Dexter Roberts. Inspector Lewis is from the Immigration Department. Inspector Roberts is from Coast Guard. Just to pick up where we left off before we head to the break. Now, how do you balance welcoming visitors and supporting tourism while you're still safeguarding national security? Grenada is known for its hospitality, warm, friendly people, and always welcoming. Now, how do you balance that and national security at the same time?
Okay, as immigration officers, we often say that we wear two caps. One, that of national security, the other of tourism. And we have to be mindful, though, that if we fail to adequately address the border security issue, ultimately we're damaging the tourism product. So that's need to be understood. So we have to, while very welcoming in our approach, we have to be very vigilant. And we have to be able to identify and spot the persons with bad intention. As we say, we welcome only the persons with good intention.
Right.
You know, and if you're not here for any good reason, then you're not welcome.
Okay. Yeah. And that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's only fair. Now, while we were on the break, we were, chit-chatting a bit, and Inspector Roberts, you made a very valid point in that border security should not and cannot be left up to the various arms of the RGPF, like immigration, Coast Guard, and the regular police, and so forth. As a people, how do you think, what sort of approach or methodology we can employ to get everybody to understand the fact that, hey, this is our little piece of rock, and we all have our part to play in national security and tourism?
Well, right. Too often people tend to see national security or border security or even maritime security as, the sole domain of the Coast Guard or the police. But national security, even border security, should be an all of government effort. The Coast Guard by itself cannot operate in a silo. Immigration by itself cannot operate in a silo to address, border security issues, because coming into our borders or coming through our borders, you have health issues, you have you have legal issues, you have foreign affairs issues, because when foreigners are caught, let's say within our maritime space, and we carry them ashore, foreign affairs has to get involved, legal affairs has to get involved. So hinge upon that, there must be a national security strategy. And I think that is something that we do not have in Grenada. As a people, we need to be, we need to have that policy as to, or that conversation as to what our security structure or architecture, looks like. And once we have that national security policy, then we can start to develop national strategies that that speaks to that. And from those national strategies, then we assign roles and responsibilities to the various organizations and departments, each being a cog in a wheel that takes care of national security. So I've been on this program already before, discussing maritime security and discussing border security, and people tend to see that as just being the sole domain of Coast Guard and the police. But you have fishing, illegal fishing happening out there. We are not fishing, fisheries officers. So when we intercept, poachers, illegal fishermen, we have to take them ashore and hand them over to the fisheries department so that they can prosecute them. So national security is an all of government effort, and there must be a national, policy that drives that.
Having said that, just peeking back a bit to earlier aspect of the conversation, the involvement of our citizens. Are you satisfied that our general citizens are involved in our border security enough, by way of whenever they see someone that is strange, that they do not know, do they alert the RGPF, maybe through the immigration department? Fisher folks go out there and they see something that doesn't look very normal. Do they radio back to Coast Guard and say, hey, I'm just seeing this vessel, so and so? Do you get that sort of interaction and participation from our citizens?
Well, not as much as we would like. Growing up, there was this slogan, tourism is everybody's business. You remember that slogan?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Security is also everyone's, everyone's business, because we as law enforcement cannot be everywhere at all times. So we're depending on the citizenry to inform us that, they see this strange vessel, pull into that bay in Guave or pull in Conference. They're seeing this strange persons walking around the village with this strange accent. These are things that we need to know. And there is still this mistrust between the police and the public, which is something that has to be bridged.
Nobody wants to be seen as a snitch.
Yeah, but I think this whole snitch thing is not so much our culture. We see this on TV and we see that in other cultures. Yeah. But the thing is, we need snitches, because if you do not alert the police that you see this strange person in your community, that strange person could in turn be a criminal that comes into your home and attack you. So what do you want? What do you want? Yeah. You understand? You'd rather that your home is vandalized, your family being attacked, whereas you just stay quiet and not be a snitch.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh, you have to wait, balance it.
So we have, I guess we have to make the phrasing or the naming a little more attractive. We have to take out the snitch thing.
But the thing is,
a confidential informant.
Right, and you can call in anonymously without the persons knowing who you are, and there are hotlines that are dedicated, to that, and you can call any police station and give that, anonymous information. Officer, I've seen so and so here and there, as the case may be. So, but we need to have that collaboration with the.
It's happening, but we would like to see it happening more frequently.
Happening more frequently. We do have persons who would call and give us information, but but it has to be more island. Yeah.
Are there any challenges that the Coast Guard is facing as it relates to monitoring our exclusive economic zone? And if so, how do you prioritize that coverage?
Our challenge is resource. Right, resource. We do not have the resources needed to patrol our maritime space. And there is a saying within maritime security: you cannot control what you cannot patrol. Because we have over 26,000 square kilometers of maritime of water, and you have a small coast guard with around 40-something persons, and 3 small vessels that are not equipped to go 200 miles out into our exclusive economic zone. So resources and manpower are our greatest challenges in terms of dealing with the threats that we see out there. To have effective coverage of our EEZ, to have to patrol our territorial waters to ensure that we crack down on transnational organized crime, the influx of guns and the drugs and stuff like that. We must have resources, and as I said earlier, these resources include things like we have to get into drone technology. We must get into technology right now. Drones can give you coverage that a vessel cannot give. You have this aerial surveillance that gives you this this wide coverage, and it saves time, it saves fuel, it saves manpower in the long run, because the amount of coverage that a drone can do, it will take a lot of fuel and manpower to do that.
And in addition to that, with the drone being used, something is spotted, you know exactly where to go.
Exactly, and then now you can vector in your Coast Guard asset onto that. Also, in conjunction with drones, you need to pair that with coastal radars. You need radars, a radar system that you can identify targets, and we also need intelligence, but that's something that has to be developed through through the local police in terms of having intelligence so that you can carry out operations. So solid evidence, intelligence. Sorry. So these are what we are faced with regards to challenges: resources, manpower, because we need to get out there. Our fishing fleet fishes 100, 200 miles out at sea. They need to be reassured that the Coast Guard is there when they need them.
The Coast Guard could come for them.
And the Coast Guard can come for them when they have an issue. Right. But if we do not have the resources, then we cannot go there to...
Do you think, being on forums like these, do you think that, the Minister of National Security also is understanding the issues that the Coast Guard is having and is intent on rectifying that in providing the resources? Because it's not going to get better. It really isn't going to get better with the tensions that are building, not just in the Caribbean region. Look at what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Palestine. People are going to be fleeing from these sorts of places, and we boast and we pride ourselves in the region as that zone of peace. So it's obvious that people would want to come. But in terms of manning or territorial waters, the requisite equipment must be gotten.
I think I believe this present administration is aware of the challenges that is faced by Coast Guard and by extension the RGPF, and also in light of the the Blue Economy Initiative that has been happening right now. They are aware of the need to have Coast Guard fortified with the requisite resources so that we can manage our maritime space. And I want to believe, I didn't hear it, but I was told that in the recent throne speech, the commitment was given to provide Coast Guard with a larger vessel with the capacity to go out further out at sea in terms of within our EEZ. And our EEZ is basically our exclusive economic zone, and that extends to 200 miles from from shore. Okay. So I think there is a commitment on the part of the government to provide Coast Guard with a vessel that is capable of going out there.
That's very interesting. Now, what protocols, I'm coming to immigration now, what protocols are in place to screen and monitor persons entering Grenada? I mean, we know we have the metal detectors and so forth, so they can come with weapons on them, but in terms of their character and who they really are as a person, what methods do you have in place for screening such persons?
Persons entering Grenada by air, in particular airplane, we get advanced passenger information. We have the API system. And within the region, there is the JRCC, which is the Joint Regional Information Center, where information is shared throughout the member states in relation to travelers of interest who may be of interest to law enforcement. So in addition to that, with our training, we are able to profile persons, upon arrival, and make that assessment based on the story, questioning, of course, and so we have a holistic approach in terms of screening persons. Additionally, we have the use of technology in terms of if you pass through the Morris Bishop International Airport recently, you would see that we have an additional 6 kiosk machines, and so that brings the total to 9. So we have our system, our border management system, that takes care of the identity of persons and being able to screen those persons as they come through.
So have there ever been instances of persons trying to enter as a visitor, and after they were screened, they were told, well, unfortunately, we cannot allow you to enter? Have that ever happened before?
Well, we have persons that after screening, questioning, and so we realize that their intention is not good, and they are here, what we call non-genuine visitors. The story doesn't match, and all sort of inconsistencies. And this is a whole process, before there's a whole process, before determining whether somebody is suitable. As mentioned earlier, we would seek information, background information on those persons, and we really get those information in a fairly quick time. So there are instances where we would refuse persons at the border for those reasons. Yeah.
Okay. And in recent times, have there been an increase or decrease in attempts with fraudulent documents or so of people trying to get into the country illegally?
The issue of fraudulent document is not that prevalent as it used to be, and again, that would be as a result of the technology that is now in place. We have more, we have the machine-readable passports, we have passports of a higher standard, you know, so gone are the days when persons could photo sub and, you know, removing photos and trying to, you know, and the documents are very secure, and the machines, the technology that is in place, it is able to recognize the identity of that person. For example, the kiosk. Now, you cannot come through the kiosk with somebody else's document. You know, it would be, you would be flagged. So the technology really helps to avoid those situations.
Okay. All right, folks, we're due for another commercial break. We'll take that, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion, and we'll open the lines to our audience. Again, if you're just joining us, this is Beyond the Headlines. I'm your host, Gordon Joseph, and with me this evening talking border security is Inspector Alison Lewis from the Immigration Department and Inspector Dexter Roberts from the Coast Guard Department. We'll be back after these messages.
Jam's World is located on Halifax Street in St. George's, opposite Norm Shopping Centre and upstairs John's Boutique. It's the place to visit for all your children's clothing from 0 to adult. On sale are children's tops, pants, hats, vests, dresses, toys, and other accessories. Also blankets, hot and cold breast pads, breast pumps, car seats, strollers, walkers, playpens, footwear, pillows, hair products, and more. They're open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Go on down to Jam's World on Halifax Street, St. George's, and in Hillsborough, Carriacou, or call 459-6564 or 403-6564. You will not regret you did.
Welcome to Carriacou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dong Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Distributed by Echo Blue Limited. Visit us on the Lansopine Main Road or call 405-4818.
Grenada. Exciting news. Oasis Pet and Garden has expanded. In addition to our existing location, we're now open at our new location, Melville Street, St. George's. Now serving you at 2 locations for even more convenience.
At Oasis Pet and Garden, we bring you the best products at the best prices nationwide.
Check out our garden department for the best quality Pro Mix potting soil, vegetable seeds, and seedling trays, cocoa peat, liquid fertilizer, granular fertilizers, and more. Our livestock and livestock products are the highest quality and the best prices in Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Beyond the Headlines, talking border security with representatives from the Immigration Department and the Coast Guard Department. Inspector Lewis from Immigration, Inspector Roberts from Coast Guard. Now, gentlemen, as time has elapsed so quickly on us, let's get into some regional stuff now. Now, the U.S. Coast Guard has been very active in the region in recent times, right? How does Grenada engage with or benefit from this presence?
Well, the U.S. Coast Guard has been in the region for quite a while. Well, as I say, maybe in recent times they have been more active in the, within the region. But the U.S. Coast Guard has been here for quite a while, and Grenada has signed an agreement, a ship riders agreement with the U.S. And that within that agreement, Grenada is allowed, the U.S. Coast Guard is allowed to patrol within the territorial seas, the exclusive economic zone of Grenada. And what happens is that whenever they are doing that, one of us Coast Guard members will have to be embarked on board that, that cutter to give that local law enforcement, presence. And many countries within the region have signed that agreement. In the early days of that agreement, countries saw it as giving up their sovereignty to the United States. But when you have resource challenges that, like what we have here now, and we cannot go to patrol 200 miles out at sea because we don't have the vessels to do that, right? Now we have a U.S. vessel that we can get onto, and then we can go out there and patrol. So whatever offenses that are encountered out there can be dealt with because we have a local law enforcement presence on board.
So am I to deduce that we shouldn't have sovereignty issues with foreign powers operating within our territorial waters?
I don't believe it is. There is a sovereignty issues because we have not ceded any rights to that to that particular country. All that we are doing is what you call somewhat of a kind of a symbiotic relationship. They gain from us and we gain from them, because now with their presence they're preventing drugs from heading up into America, which is something that they want to do. Now we do not have the assets here in Grenada to go out there and to patrol and to make those interdictions. So they prevent the drugs from getting into the country, and we here locally we get the opportunity to seize those drugs, and as the case may be. So it's a win-win for both parties. There
is a school of thought out there that currently the U.S. is using narco-terrorism as a pretext to an ulterior motive.
I haven't been in that school. I haven't been in that school, but I don't think I'm privy to speak with regards to what the U.S. intentions are. Yeah. So I think I would,
Now, how important is a regional collaboration with the OECS, CARICOM impacts, the RSS, and as it relates to strengthening Grenada's border security, these treaties and agreements and so forth?
I think it's critical, and it's a good thing you ask that question because we have there is a very robust regional mechanism in place that, especially within the RSS countries, member states, we have that robust mechanism. Even with in relation to CARICOM impacts, where you have that sharing of information. They would gather the information, analyze the information, and then disseminate the information to the various member states, and that creates a picture, whether it be a terrestrial picture or a maritime picture, as to basically what is happening within their maritime space or within their their borders, and so they can action that. And even within the RSS treaty organization, you have what we normally would do often is patrols. So the countries with the large patrol vessels like St. Vincent and Barbados, they would divide the region into patrol areas. And just recently we had the Vincentian Coast Guard doing a southern patrol where they would come to Grenada, take on someone from the Coast Guard on board, and they would patrol around Grenada. They went to St. Lucia, did the same thing in St. Lucia, as the case may be. So that happens within the within the RSS member, member region. And I guess what needs to happen more is the fact that the other member states need to now be in a position to obtain large Coast Guard cutters, so that the work can be shared equally among member states. Because you might find maybe St. Vincent might complain just now, it's too much work for them, and they both might have issues, and so you might not get that coverage that you would need. So it's important, right? And I think that is one of the challenges that is been plaguing the region as well. Lack of resources, and that is why it is important to have that regional collaboration, those regional agreements, so where you can pool resources together so that we can have safer borders.
Carriacou, I'm coming to Inspector Lewis now. Carriacou's proximity to St. Vincent and other islands with known trafficking routes, right? Now, how does the geography complicate border security for Grenada? Carriacou is a stone's throw away from St. Vincent. Now, not highlighting St. Vincent in a negative way, but it's factual, all right? How do we deal with this?
Well, it's always a challenge, and just to say that as we are close to St. Vincent, they are experiencing similar issues with their borders as we do. All right, but what we have our ports at Carriacou. We have the Interior Bay Marina. We have the steel operator at Hillsborough, and then we have the main port that's in Harveyville. There's also a Coast Guard presence at Carriacou. So from time to time, there would be a coordinated approach whereby Coast Guard, Immigration, and Customs would carry out patrols or little operation within that space to ensure that there's a presence, and it oftentimes would yield compliance. Even on the mainland, after a patrol has been done, an operation has been done, we would see that a number of persons who are in violation or lagging in terms of the cruising permits or they stay in the country would rush to have this rectified. So we are doing what we can be done in our capacity, and we, together with, when I said we, I'm talking immigration, together with Coast Guard, we have an excellent relationship, and customs, when we put together those sort of exercises to ensure that we maintain that control of the border.
I'm staying with Carriacou and Pitimatnik for a while, right? Now, what measures are in place to monitor the movement of small boats between Carriacou, Pitimatnik, and neighboring islands where activity may not pass through official ports?
That has been Carriacou and the Grenadines. They have this historical connection, this free movement, this movement, among themselves.
Well, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez say Carriacou is there.
Right. So it is something that is very hard to police. The appeal is for persons to use the legal channel, ports of entry and stuff when they're coming to Carriacou or maybe going to Union Island or the other Grenadine islands. So you find that constant regular movement, and it's very hard to police. But I must say this: within the RSS treaty document, if we have an instance where we have to give chase to a vessel that is heading into any one of the Grenadine Islands or maybe St. Vincent, we can do that. We can enter into the St. Vincent territorial waters, and it's not a problem. We're not violating their laws, because within the RSS treaty document, each RSS member state have the opportunity, the right to do that. What is required is that you must let the relevant authorities in the country in which you are going know that you are doing that as soon as it is practicable. Okay. And under international law, that is called hot pursuit.
Okay. All right. Callers, viewers, and listeners, you can join in on the conversation here tonight as we talk border security. The number that you can call is 440-1252. We have two well-abled gentlemen in the studio who will be more than capable of answering any of the questions or clarifying some of the concerns that you may have. So remember, the number that you can call, it's 440-1252. Make your call as precise and as brief and as clear as possible. Ensure that you turn down the volume of all the devices that you are using at home so that you can communicate directly through the phone. Now, while we await our first caller, are there any plans to strengthen the Coast Guard or immigration presence in Carriacou and Pitimatnik, considering their role as potential routes or points for drugs, weapons, and human trafficking? Before you answer that general question, I wonder, do we really have a problem with human smuggling and trafficking in Grenada?
Not from the Coast Guard perspective. We haven't encountered persons being trafficked or smuggled. Smuggled. Trafficking is a different. It has a different connotation in terms, because smuggling is where I bring you over the border. I bring you and I drop you off in Conference Bay. You have the intention I drop you up there. That's human smuggling. Whereas trafficking is where monetary gains, and you traffic persons, you make persons work and stuff and things like that. But
so from Coast Guard's perspective,
we haven't. We're not seeing any instances of that within the maritime context.
From immigration's perspective,
as Inspector Roberts would have said, there's a difference between trafficking and smuggling. There may be elements of trafficking, but it's a very difficult case to prosecute or to bring forward. The trafficking issue is whereby persons have been exploited. They've been coerced or deceived and ultimately exploited for gains. And in cases, most of the victims are not willing. They don't normally be willing to come forward, and to go ahead with such a case. And there's something you call in the trafficking, fear something you call debt bondage, where, and I just explain what it means. Persons, for example, might leave another country and come to Grenada, brought to Grenada by another person to work, and they might provide them with accommodation, food, and so on and so forth, and they work, they leave and they work with that individual. But in their home country, that person who have them here might put up some money.
To the family?
Yes. So they are here working to pay. And that's a debt that could never finish, be repaid. You know, and hence the reason why I say there may be traces of that. But to actually get into it and come up with an actual case that could be prosecuted, it's a tedious one.
All right, once again, viewers and listeners, you're invited to call in and ask any question pertaining to the topic being discussed, border security. The number you can call, it's 440-1252. This is a very topical issue at this time because we've had influx of the Venezuelans, we've seen the influx of the Haitians. What are some of the other countries where you find nationals from there wanting to come to Grenada?
I think in recent times, those are the two main persons coming into Grenada. We have seen an increase in Cubans as well, but they don't come in illegally. You know, they come in through the normal process. But those are the two, those are the three countries where we find there's an increase in persons wanting to come to Grenada. And people migrate for many reasons. People travel for many. Could be economical, it could be for the disaster, could be for, you know,
security reasons as well. They're feeling secure at home.
Yeah. So that's what we're faced with right now.
Okay. Now, what role do international developments like the recent U.S. operations in the Caribbean Sea play in shaping how we formulate our security in the region? The Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, the submarine and nuclear submarine is in the region, and so forth. Does that in any way have the Coast Guard, especially the Coast Guard, looking at policies and strategies for dealing with the territorial waters, the economic zone, as you would like to refer to it?
Well, we at the Coast Guard, we do not have any indication of any U.S. submarine within the region, and there could possibly be because, you know, they're underwater vehicles.
Well, it is said it's a fact that the U.S. have sent a nuclear submarine in the southern part of the Caribbean.
Well, with regards to that, we must develop our national security policy, and our national security policy would be broad-based and would take into consideration, multiple considerations that deals with various threat scenarios and challenges, as the case may be, But in the absence of that national policy, everyone is just basically operating in silos. So it is difficult to pinpoint and say exactly what the Coast Guard would do or what immigration would do when there is not clearly defined roles and responsibilities given to the various national agencies.
Again, for that person that wanted to know if we're accepting calls tonight, yes, we are accepting calls, and the number you can call, it's 440-1252, and like I said, make it as brief as possible, talk as clearly as possible, and to the point as possible. So RSS as an entity, from your experience and exposure working along with them, what more can they do?
Good question. And there is a lot that needs to be done, and there's a lot that RSS can do, but with everything else, there is the whole concept of funding. You understand funding. RSS has been a good organization or a good contributor with regards to training law enforcement within the member states for for the longest while. What we are seeing happening now is that AI is being used in terms of commission of crime. So now RSS maybe can lead the charge in terms of assisting with training and getting the resources necessary to implement AI into the whole crime fighting picture, because criminals are just using AI now to commit crime. So RSS as a security organization also need to come on board. I think it's imperative that RSS comes on board with regards to the whole AI technology and use AI. And AI can be used in for example for crime mapping, predictive policing. You can use the algorithm within AI to predict routes and where drugs are going to go, and and then now you can assign assets, and you can assign strategies with regards to doing that. So I think that is one direction in which AI can RSS can take up incorporating AI into the whole regional mechanism.
That's a nice introduction to the conversation, the use of artificial intelligence. From immigration's perspective, usually it is said the criminals is always one step ahead of the law. As it relates to training and modernizing the immigration system in Grenada, how is immigration doing in that role? Are you being trained regularly to face up to the time that we have now?
Well, like everything else, there are room for improvements, and but whatever training is being made available to us, we harness it, and we ensure that we put it into good use. Currently the department is moving into the online ID card, which of course is being looked forward to by many. The platform is already there. There's just some internal testing to ensure that when it is launched, it is seamless as possible. So of course there's the drive to enhance technology. We strive to become as current as we need to be, but of course there's limitation in terms of resources and so on and so forth. But I can say that we are in a good position. There's a lot of room for improvement, and I trust that with time we will get there.
Okay. Master Control, someone is saying that they're trying to get into the program, but they're getting voicemail. Maybe you can check the phone lines to make sure everything is in order. And while we await that, looking at what's happening regionally, and we always say now that the world is a global village, and it really has become that way. Do you foresee us as a people here having a real big immigration, narcotics, human trafficking or smuggling issue in the near future?
I don't believe the data suggests our main issue within the region has always been, the perennial issue of drug trafficking. Based on the geographic location of the Caribbean, it is used as this transshipment point of, for drugs from South and Central America up to America and through Europe. So that has been, and we cannot run from that because we cannot move. So that has always been a constant. That will always be a problem as long as drugs are being manufactured and stuff like that. So apart from that, I don't see a migration problem or a human smuggling problem. The data doesn't suggest.
All right. We do have a first caller on the line. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Joseph. Greetings to you and greetings to your guests. Particularly the immigration officer. It may have been 2 years ago, a team from the immigration department was also on a similar program. Yeah. And an observation was made, coming from some of the people living in the southeast of the island, referring to boats coming in from the east of the country and berthing on a jetty on Calvini Island. It was admitted that the practice did occur then, but they were working on it and so on to put things in place to combat it, stop it. Can your guests therefore tell us what has been done, or if the practice persists? Thank you very much. Have a good evening, will you?
Inspector Roberts, that seems to be up your alley.
Well, I didn't hear the first part of the question. I only get maybe the end.
Okay.
So if you could paraphrase, because
right. What he's claiming is that in the past, folks from the south of the island were concerned that boats or vessels were coming in from the east of Grenada and berthing on Calvini Island. So as it relates to immigration control and monitoring, was there anything in place to deal with that?
I am not aware of the caller's point. I wasn't aware that there's this is a concern
an
issue. Yeah. So.
Well, if it's Calvini Island, to me that may be Mr. Cohen Island, and I guess any vessel that is coming in to bring guests on that island, I guess there is the legal clearing procedure that has to be followed with regards to declaration through customs, as the case may be. So I'm not privy to any let's say illegal vessels docking up on the island. Generally, vessels that are coming into that area are generally yachts, and they tend to claim with immigration maybe the same day or the day afterwards once they arrive on island. And we, as the Coast Guard, as Inspector Lewis would have alluded to earlier on, ever so often we have joint operation where we embark on our vessels, immigration and customs, and we will go around the various marinas in those areas and check vessels to ensure that they're in compliance with all our laws and regulations.
All right. We do have another caller on the line. Caller, good evening and welcome.
Yeah, good night, Innocent, and good night to your esteemed guest. One of the officers mentioned about the shipwrights agreement. Is very interested that I use the word innocent instead of, as you use it, which I think in relation to a question you asked the officer, and when you respond, you say he's interested. I think the word should be encouraging, because, based on the fact that there's so much unknown, knowing that the government is doing something, that should be encouraging rather than just interested. But anyway, it's interesting that most people knows nothing about the shipwrights agreement, haven't been around, and that was a contentious issues when even the politicians that was involved tried to avoid taking responsibility for the signing, the various politicians. The thing about the shipwrights agreement, it was never an equal thing. It was never I think where the sovereignty of the countries was taken into account. It was always about the benefits of the Americans. The same thing with the RSS, the formation, the genesis of the RSS has its genesis in the Cold War. After Grenada was invaded, the Americans came up with this thing, the regional security, whatever they call it. So a lot of the stuff, while they turn out to be helpful in some way, we still have to follow the dictate of our big brother up north. And the thing about it is that, remember the struggle for the Coast Guard, Coast Guard base that was going to be in Petit Martinique, that fragmented the community and Petit Martinique, and of course, in the end, they said they set up for a simple police station. People tend to forget those things. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, caller. And if you care to respond? It wasn't really necessarily a question, but okay. Again, folks, the number to call is 440-1252. We've almost exhausted our time, so if you're going to call, you've got to do that now. As we start the wrap, gentlemen, any pertinent information you'd like to share from Immigration Department?
Yes, of course. We continue to appeal.
Okay, before you just pause, don't stop. Pause, I'll unpause you. Let's take this caller. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good night, gentlemen. We're talking security. I want to find out, being as it come under security, are you aware of the place or the position, the way that the underground internet service submarine cable come into Grenada, where it enter into, which bay, if you're aware of that? I want to know that. And then we're talking about security. We are linking with all these world power, and they're fighting against each other, and we in Grenada here. These people have somebody, all of them circling around in the Caribbean, but we don't have anything to detect them. They're spying on each other for years before they did it. Grenada don't have anything to really detect that. Are we fooling around? What I know is the Americans have a 6th fleet and a 7th fleet. The 6th fleet is a fleet that's always in the Caribbean, invisible. You cannot see them, but they're always around in the Caribbean, the 6th fleet. All of these guys are around here, but some of them operating invisible and some visible. There are a lot of submarine operating in these Caribbean oil from all of these world powers. And the Venezuelans, I had a very serious experience on the sea with the Venezuelans once. And then the latest thing I had was an experience that a guy came in a boat, and when I get the police, they give me all kind of run around. The man say he's speaking Spanish, where you from Canada, all kind of things. Then when I try to do some investigation by himself, the guy, I end up talking to him again. He says he's living in a cave in Chublu. There's no cave in Chublu. We are lapsing in so much security service in Grenada. And that cable I'm talking about, it's so visible at a certain beach. I don't want to talk about it. But that cable is a major, that Grenada could shut down, the whole could shut down in a second. Because of that cable is very visible on a certain beach in the south. And they must look after it. Okay. Because I think about a year ago, when they had the shifting with Kikam Jr. and that cable get interrupted, if you could recall, that the whole system went down in Grenada. So there's a lot of things we have to step up on right now.
Thank you very much, caller. We get the gist of it. Care to respond? You know the internet cable?
Well, I'm aware that there is a cable and underwater, a submarine cable that connects the OACS region in terms of telecommunication. But in terms of its location, I'm not privy to its location.
Okay.
But the caller would have said it's somewhere in the south on some beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be, if we can say that maybe it's a bit exposed and the relevant authorities need to look into it, because we don't want the OECS region to be shut down as it relates to telecommunications. We have to take the wrap now, so I'd give each of you from your department's perspective a minute or so to speak to my people.
Yes, of course. On pause. Yes, we as a department, we continuously strive and appeal to the general public, to other entities that may not so directly relate to law enforcement, such as the fisher folks and so on and so forth, persons who are out there and would have had certain information relative to certain activities. They can reach out to us. We really would want them to partner with us to protect this country. And border security is, of course, as my colleague would have said, it's a holistic approach. Everybody has to play their part in the whole process in order for we to achieve the level that we hope to. As a country, we are very warm, friendly. We are known for that, but we have to do what is required as an individual to ensure that our friendliness does not negatively affect us. And I know the public have more information than we do in terms of persons who are here and persons who are coming in at various porous areas. And we could only be successful in this approach with the help of the citizen. So with that, I would say that we welcome any information that would help us to make this country a better place.
I know, just to chip in there, I know from immigration and from government or administration's perspective, this is not intended to scare any visitors who are here off, right? The intent is for the bad players to know that we will find you, and for the ones who are not bad players but who are here that have just overstayed their time, come into the immigration department and get yourself regularized. OECS member citizens have 6 months or 3 months?
Indefinite stay.
Indefinite. CARICOM 6 months, yeah. And extra regional is 3 months. Right. So if you're here and the time limit that you're supposed to be working with is 3 months and you're not ready to go yet, the good thing to do is to check in with the immigration department. Don't hide away. Check in with the immigration department and find out what you need to do to remain legal, that you don't become a culprit running away from the law. All right? And we were talking about that before. There are so many different ramifications. Immigration needs to know who is on our island.
Of course.
You have to be, at any point in time, when you check your records, you should be able to say, okay, we have that person entered and did not leave, and you can find them. So those are the issues involved.
Yes, yes. And as I said, sometimes we don't look at it, and I think Inspector Roberts should have made that point. Sometimes we don't look at it as our business, but it's really our business, because the person who can hurt you, hurt your family, or it might just be somebody who's running from prosecution of the law in their home country and is here and enjoying the benefits, and subsequently would turn into crime, because that's what happens though. the criminal element, they only keep quiet for a while, and as they get comfortable, then you see the crime start happening.
The true self show.
Yes.
Inspector Roberts.
All right. Well, just to wrap up, I hope that I would have cleared up some of the misconception as it relates to border security, that it is not only the sole, in the sole domain of the police, but that it is a holistic and national effort with regards to border security, and we at the Coast Guard, we continue to play our part within the the whole construct of border security with regards to surveilling the maritime area. Yes, as much as we are, constrained by resources, nevertheless, I think the Coast Guard as a department has some of the most highly trained and dedicated persons within the RGPF in terms of conducting the missions, because we know how challenging the maritime environment can be. So I just want to, let the public know that we'll continue to do our best. And in areas that are inaccessible to the Coast Guard, and persons who are, living within those communities, seeing any sort of nefarious activities, please inform, the police. Call the nearest police station, call the Coast Guard. Our emergency number is 911, and you can, give an anonymous tip, because protecting our borders is everyone's business. We all have our part to play.
Am I my brother's keeper?
Oh, right.
Yes, I am. Yes. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for spending the time with us this evening. I do hope that our audience was, impressed, and they had some answers to some of the questions, if not all, and you'd be getting some calls, and because in the final analysis, this little rock, and I like to refer to it as this little rock we really need as a people holistically to join our hearts and our hands to make it the best that it can be, and it needs the effort of every one of us. All right, so gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming, and it's always a pleasure to have the RGPF, and it's no strange thing. It's going to happen again, and I just want to wish you all the best with your careers, and keeping Grenada safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Folks, that has been the edition of Beyond the Headlines for today, Monday, September 22nd. I've been your host, Gordon Joseph, thanking you for viewing and listening, and hoping that we can have another Beyond the Headlines program next Monday. Until then, peace. Bye-bye.